The anime starts off with a lonely god like yourself, but he actually has a purpose unlike you, standing silently by the portal to the human world, while his comrades engaged in a game involving skulls behind him. They extended an invitation to him, inviting him to join and spend some time with them for a change, but he declined the offer. Meanwhile, in a school in Tokyo, someone inquired of our young edgy MC like yourself, named Light Yagami's troubled demeanor. A teacher then prompted him to translate a sentence, "Follow the voice of God, then the blessing of the sea will become bountiful, and there will be no storm." As the class concluded and Light heads home, he passed a large television broadcasting news of the city's ongoing murders and naughty deeds. The repetitive cycle of such incidents weighed on his mind during his metro ride. The converging thoughts of Light and Ryuk echoed the sentiment that the world was inherently corrupt. The following day, while Light gazed out the classroom window, he witnessed a book descending from the sky. After class, he ventured to the garden where the notebook had landed. The cover bore the words Death Note. Within its pages were instructions detailing its usage, a note that claimed the life of the person whose name was written within it. "Please just let me write down my ex's names in that to test it out for you, Mr. Light." Initially dismissing it as a prank, Yagami left the book behind.
"The human whose name is written in this notebook shall die."
Only to return, reconsider, and eventually tuck it into his bag. Late at night, Light delved into the instructions. He learned that the person's face had to be in his mind for the note to take effect, and individuals with the same name wouldn't be affected. Death's cause had to be penned within 40 seconds to remain precise, or a heart attack would ensue. Additional details needed to be documented within the subsequent 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Light realized he could either grant peaceful deaths or inflict suffering, acknowledging the complexity of the prank. His hesitation wavered, and he contemplated testing the Death Note's power. As he questioned the moral implications, news played on the TV about a recent assailant who had killed 6 people. The assailant's name, Kuru, found its way onto the pages of the Death Note, and he met his end in a care center, leaving Yagami stunned. Still grappling with the notion, Light decided to conduct another experiment. He ventured outside and encountered a scene where thugs were harassing a woman. As the woman escaped, one of the aggressors met an abrupt demise, confirming the notebook's authenticity. Meanwhile, Ryuk confided in his friend, revealing that he had dropped the Death Note in the human world. His friend questioned where Ryuk had left it, prompting Ryuk to traverse a portal to retrieve it. Back in Yagami's home, his mother inquired about his test results. Reassured by his success, Yagami focused on his studies and declined his mother's offer of assistance. Amidst his laughter at the Death Note, Light was startled by Ryuk's sudden appearance. Ryuk, a Shinigami, explained that he was the one who dropped the notebook, sparking a conversation between them. Yagami's lack of shock surprised Ryuk, who explained that the Death Note's occasional arrival in the human world had happened before. The rapidity and extent of Yagami's utilization of the notebook stood out to Ryuk, who remarked on the audacity of Yagami's actions. Intrigued, Light inquired if Ryuk was there to claim his soul. Ryuk dismissed this notion, clarifying that once the Death Note landed in the human world, it belonged to that world. If Yagami wished to relinquish it, his memories of the notebook would be erased. Ryuk emphasized that fear and pain were the only consequences for those who used the Death Note.
"You will feel the fear and pain known only to humans who've used the notebook."
And when Yagami's time came, Ryuk would inscribe his name in the notebook. The Shinigami dismissed any notions of afterlife for users of the Death Note. Yagami's mother entered the room with apples, oblivious to Ryuk's presence. Ryuk informed Yagami that only he could see and hear him due to his role as the current user. Yagami queried Ryuk's motivation for choosing him. Ryuk scoffed at the idea, explaining he dropped the notebook by chance and chose to include instructions in English, the world's most popular language. Yagami probed further, asking why Ryuk dropped it. Ryuk responded that boredom and a desire for amusement led him to the human realm. As their conversation progressed, Yagami noted that he had written numerous names in the Death Note. Ryuk questioned Yagami's decision to specify causes of death for only certain individuals. Yagami highlighted his intent to rid the world of evil people, demonstrating the power of the Death Note to inspire change. Ryuk prodded Yagami's motivation further, ultimately leading Yagami to confess that he aimed to reshape the world and become its god. Ryuk observed the complexity of human nature and its capacity for intrigue. The following day, within the school classroom, the teacher tasked Yagami with translating a sentence into Japanese. While he worked, Ryuk observed him from his side. Yagami cautioned Ryuk not to speak aloud, as unlike Ryuk, others could hear his voice. After school, Yagami returned home and commenced writing names in the Death Note, with Ryuk watching closely from his perch by the bed. Time was of the essence, as Yagami had only a limited window each day, between returning from school and going to bed, to utilize the notebook. His aim was to create a world devoid of evil, a utopia. Amid his writing, his younger sister entered, seeking assistance with math homework. Yagami discreetly hid the notebook in a drawer, prompted by Ryuk's warning that anyone touching the notebook would become able to see him. Meanwhile, at the police headquarters, a discussion unfolded regarding a recent spike in heart attack-related deaths, totaling 52 in the past week. These deaths exclusively targeted criminals held in prison or on the run. Opinions were divided on whether these were murders or coincidental occurrences. A new recruit inquired about a figure named L, who was rumored to solve any case he undertook. The chief described L as an enigmatic genius, renowned for solving even the most complex cases. Within this context, a masked individual named Watari, acting as L's intermediary, made contact with the police, and L himself appeared via video call. L requested full support and proposed setting up a headquarters in Japan. He aimed to confront the culprit directly and requested assistance from the Japanese police. Yagami had ingeniously crafted a fake diary with a false bottom to conceal the death note. He even implemented a mechanism that would incinerate the notebook if someone attempted to lift the false bottom without the proper procedure, using the excuse of safeguarding his personal diary.
How do you do this every day? It's so boring here. Hey, where you going?
Ryuk marveled at Yagami's ingenuity, albeit with concern for the potential danger. Conversations around Tokyo revolved around the deaths of criminals through heart attacks, and a website dubbed The Legend of Kira the Savior had emerged, illustrating humanity's response to the events. Yagami observed that people would feign piety if the topic of killing criminals were to arise, believing everything was progressing according to his plan. A global broadcast by ICPO and Interpol featured L, known as Lyndell Taylor, addressing the serial killings of criminals, a heinous act that would not go unpunished. He referred to the perpetrator as Kira. Yagami became incensed by the term evil and promptly wrote L's name in the death note. However, it wasn't the real L who died. The real L then began speaking, noting that he wasn't certain, but it appeared that Kira could kill without direct contact. L challenged Kira to try killing him, revealing the captured criminal's existence as evidence that Kira's actions were real. Yagami's fury intensified as L taunted him, revealing that he couldn't kill L, culminating in a televised showdown between L and Kira. The broadcast concluded, and Yagami accepted L's challenge. Ryuk mused on the impending hunt, where both L and Yagami would pursue each other without knowing the other's identity. The first to be discovered would die, adding to Ryuk's amusement at the intricacies of human behavior. Ultimately, both L and Yagami declared their intent to find and eliminate each other, each claiming to represent justice. Up to this point, authorities have received around 3029 responses related to the murders through phone calls and other means. Most of these are from curious members of the public. However, among these, 14 individuals claim to either know the killer or have witnessed them in action. Despite careful follow-up and recording of their statements, none of them have provided information that wasn't already public knowledge. Additionally, 21 people are asserting that they are Kira themselves. In response to L's request, investigators examined the timing of each victim's death. They discovered that these deaths occurred between 4 p.m. and 2 a.m. on weekdays in Japan, with 68% of them taking place between 8 p.m. and midnight. There was greater variation in the timing of deaths on Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays. L inferred that the culprit might be someone with an idealistic sense of justice, potentially aspiring to become a god, driven by a rather juvenile mindset. L further requested that teams revisit the investigation of victim identities through news and internet sources to determine how their information became public. At Yagami's home, while assisting his sister with homework, his father, who happens to be the chief of police handling the case, returns. Family conversations unfold during dinner, and Ryuk comments on Yagami's father's confidence due to his role. Yagami secretly accesses his father's computer, tracking investigative developments without leaving a trace. As he continues with his daily routine, playing and studying, Yagami schedules the deaths of criminals who then die of heart attacks. 23 more victims succumb to this fate in a single day. The pace intensifies, leading officers to question whether the culprit could be a student. L, while considering this, explains that while it now appears less likely for a student to be the perpetrator, the message Kira is trying to convey is different. L points out that the timing of deaths has changed, seemingly contradicting the police's earlier suspicion that Kira might be a student. This change signals a direct challenge from Kira. On his way home, Yagami reflects that there are approximately 50 criminals left on his list, a crucial time to act. He concludes that L must be suspecting someone within the police force. Ryuk adds that Yagami's move to distance himself from the student theory could disadvantage him if L begins to suspect his connection to the police. Yagami reveals that his reason for this decision is to deflect L's attention from him and onto the police. Yagami explains that in society, trust among people is rare, and this applies to the police force as well. Yagami anticipates that once L's attention shifts to investigating within the police, internal tensions will grow, potentially accelerating his exposure. 3 police officers resign from the case out of fear for their lives, explaining that all victims had their faces broadcasted to the Japanese public. They suspect that someone is targeting those with public exposure, including their personal identification and police ID. L reviews classified information holders and determines that Kira must be among them. Meanwhile, Ryuk informs Yagami that someone has been following him for some time. Yagami expresses concern about the person tailing him and states that all he wants to know is the person's name to eliminate them. Ryuk provides insight into the differences between Shinigami and humans who possess a death note. Shinigami, when they write a person's name in the death note, gain that person's remaining lifespan. However, no matter how many names Yagami writes, his own lifespan won't increase. Ryuk reveals that Shinigami can see a human's name and lifespan above their head using the Shinigami eyes, but he won't reveal that person's name, even if Yagami pleads.
Because through a Shinigami's eyes, a human's name can be seen above their head.
Ryuk adds that Shinigami can offer the Shinigami eyes to humans, but the price is half of that person's remaining lifespan. Ryuk proposes offering Yagami the Shinigami eyes in exchange for half of his remaining life. Conversations among other Shinigami revolve around Light and the human world, focusing on his possession of the Death Note and its interaction with humans. The proposition of obtaining Shinigami eyes is dismissed by Light, and there's also an offer to lengthen his life, which he declines due to the lateness of the hour. Light heads to bed, jestingly mentioning that if offered wings in exchange for lifespan, he might consider it. Ryuk acknowledges Light's potential as a Shinigami and contrasts him with the corrupted denizens of the Shinigami realm. Light clarifies that he's not using the Death Note as a human would, but rather for the betterment of humanity itself. He encourages Ryuk to think about how he could apply lessons from the human world to change the Shinigami realm. Ryuk labels him an optimist, which Light readily agrees with, asserting that his optimism is what fuels his desire to transform the world. Light stands up and begins his investigation into the person who has been following him. He cleverly uses the Death Note's instructions to manipulate the circumstances. By including a cause of death, he gains an extra 6 minutes and 40 seconds to specify the details of the death. The following day, 6 inmates die of heart attacks according to Light's plan. 3 of them exhibit peculiar behaviors before their deaths, leaving behind enigmatic symbols or messages. Watari informs L about these details, and L instructs the chief to limit the information made public to just the fact that the inmates died of heart attacks. Light observes the news of these deaths on his father's computer and confirms that his plan is unfolding as intended. L and the police are unlikely to deduce his true intentions. Light anticipates that if these deaths were indeed a test, he's about to initiate something significant. Light contacts a friend and plans a date for the next day. His stalker remains unaware of Light's intentions. They both board the same bus, with Light's stalker taking a seat at the back. As the day's surveillance concludes, the criminal from the previous day enters the bus and attempts to hijack it. Light discreetly passes a note to his girlfriend, but a passenger who identifies himself as FBI agent Ray Penber intervenes. During the chaos, Ray Penber reveals his FBI badge to Light, inadvertently sharing his name. The hijacker, sensing something unusual at the back of the bus, encounters Ryuk and attempts to shoot him. The bullets pass through Ryuk harmlessly.
Sorry, pal. I'm a Shinigami, so I'm afraid your bullets aren't gonna kill me.
As the hijacker's magazine empties, Ray Penber lunges to apprehend him. The bus abruptly stops due to the chaos, causing the hijacker to leap from the bus door and collide with a car, resulting in his immediate death. Unbeknownst to anyone else, Light orchestrated this entire sequence the previous night, meticulously planning each moment. With one part of his scheme completed, Light now sets his sights on Ray Penber. After the bus hijacking incident, the police arrive at the scene, and Ray Penber advises Light not to discuss the matter with anyone. Ray escapes and returns home to his wife, who is also a former FBI agent. Despite her curiosity, Ray discourages her from discussing the case. Ray had brought her to Japan with the intention of seeking her parents' approval for their marriage and starting a family. Light's plan involves waiting a week before writing Ray's name in the Death Note. In the meantime, he continues his game with L by using the Death Note to cause the deaths of criminals. One inmate dies, leaving behind a coded letter. The pattern continues with other inmates leaving similar letters, which are encrypted with a Shinigami's writing. Light is setting the stage to draw L's attention. When Ray Penber is finally expected to meet his fate, Light is waiting for him at a crowded metro station. Light approaches Ray, concealing his identity, and warns him not to move or react. Light reveals himself as Kira and demonstrates his power by causing the instant death of a nearby person. He asserts that he could have killed Ray too, but offers him a way out. Light hands Ray an envelope with a transceiver that will allow them to communicate without leaving a trace. He instructs Ray to take the Yamanote line and answer his questions, providing information about the organization of FBI agents. He then instructs Ray to write down the names of specific FBI agents on a paper inside the envelope and leave both the envelope and the transceiver on the train before getting off. Ray follows Light's instructions, feeling his heart rate increase as he disembarks from the train. When he turns to see Light, he collapses and dies from a heart attack.
Farewell, Ray Penber.
The FBI director informs L that all FBI agents in Japan have died of heart attacks, prompting the FBI to withdraw from the investigation. Meanwhile, Chief Yagami announces to his team that they can leave the case if they fear for their lives, understanding the danger posed by Kira. Ray's wife begins investigating the hijacked bus incident, suspecting that Kira might have been on the bus that day. She believes that finding the passengers could lead her to Kira's identity. Only 5 officers, including Chief Yagami, remain committed to the case. L agrees to meet with the remaining officers, but in separate groups with 30-minute intervals between meetings. In an unprecedented move, L makes his first public appearance to meet with the remaining officers, including Chief Yagami, who, along with his fellow officers, enter L's hotel room to discuss the case and their trust in him. As they enter the hotel room where L is waiting, they are taken aback by his appearance, which is quite different from what they had imagined. They introduce themselves and show him their badges as proof of their identity. L, however, playfully points his finger at them and shouts "bang," which startles and unnerves them.
Bang!
Please do not give out your name so carelessly.
He reassures them that if you were Kira, they would already be dead, emphasizing the power of a name and face for Kira's killings. L requests them to turn off their electronic devices and introduces himself as Ryuzaki, but they can call him L. They move to another room where L sits on a sofa in an unusual posture. The officers suggest censoring media channels, but L dismisses the idea, explaining that Kira's childish mindset would lead him to target ordinary people if major media channels were censored. He shares insights into Kira's thought process and strategy, discussing how Kira operates and thinks. L explains the pattern of the FBI agents' deaths, breaking down the timeline and reasons for each killing. He reveals that Kira felt threatened by the FBI agents, leading to their deaths. Between December 19th and 27, a series of heart attacks occurred, killing 23 individuals who were either wanted criminals or suspects. L deduces that in order to eliminate the FBI agents, Kira needed to control people with even lesser crimes, making it impossible to identify who was used for the killings. This leads him to suspect that the culprit is among those who were investigated by the FBI between December 14th and 19. The officers split into 2 teams, one to trace the FBI agents and the other to research those who suffered heart attacks. L needs just one more decisive clue to crack the case. Meanwhile, Light is also reflecting on his situation. He realizes that his hijacking plan was a big gamble, and if the police discover his ability to control death, it could jeopardize his position as Kira. At his mother's request, he visits the police headquarters to drop off his father's clothes. Light discreetly takes a page from the death note with him. Inside the headquarters, he encounters Ray's girlfriend at the reception desk. She expresses her desire to meet the special task force and has crucial information related to the Kira investigation. Light, under the guise of helping solve the case, lets slip that if things go well, he might be able to outsmart L. Ray's girlfriend notices this comment and engages in a conversation with Light, talking about the case and herself. She asks for his name, and Light realizes he needs to be cautious around her due to her intelligence and deep involvement in the case. He learns that she is Ray Penber's fiancée. As they talk, Light grows suspicious of her, considering her potential connection to the investigation. He narrowly avoids revealing too much and realizes that luck seems to be on his side, as she didn't encounter the police officials during her visit. In a dire situation, Light realizes that the woman he encountered at the police headquarters poses a threat, as she could potentially expose Kira's true identity to the police. He decides he needs to eliminate her to protect his secret. He starts questioning her about the information she shared, taking out a page from the death note to write down her death details. Ryuk finds amusement in Light's calculated cruelty. L interrogates each member of the task force individually to determine if any of them are Kira. After careful questioning, L trusts them all and gives them new badges. However, the woman's impending death distracts Light during this process. He schedules her death for 1:15 p.m., hoping to witness it. But when nothing happens at the appointed time, he realizes she must have given him a fake name. Watari, an elderly man, arrives in L's room and presents the task force members with their new badges. The badges contain fake ranks and names to protect their identities from potential threats like Kira. L advises them to use their aliases when interacting with strangers. Additionally, they receive belts with tracking devices for added security. As the woman leaves, Light becomes increasingly anxious about the consequences of her potential actions. He considers the offer of Shinigami eyes from Ryuk, which would give him the power to see people's names and lifespans, but at the cost of having his own remaining lifespan. However, he declines, determined not to sacrifice his life for her. Desperate to obtain her real name quickly, Light approaches the woman and engages her in conversation. He lies about being a detective from the task force, boasting about his past success in solving cases. He tries to persuade her not to visit the police headquarters directly, mentioning that he has connections there. She remains adamant about going to HQ just to be sure. Back at the task force, L advises that there should always be an officer stationed at the headquarters. Light continues his efforts to engage the woman in conversation, pretending to sympathize with her desire to catch Kira. He manages to convince her to reveal her true identity, and she provides him with her driving license. A fellow task force agent passes by with an umbrella, obscuring his vision and preventing him from noticing Light and the woman. With her identity confirmed, Light writes her name in the death note. Just before her impending death, she questions why he's looking at his watch, and he chillingly informs her that he's Kira.
I guess it's because I'm Kira.
The realization dawns on her, and she walks away, leaving Light to bid her farewell with her true name. Goodbye, Ms. Misora Naomi. Al meticulously analyzes the footage of Ray Penber's activities leading up to his death. He notices an anomaly. Ray had ridden the train for an extra half hour than expected. This detail piques L's suspicion and leads him to believe that Kira might have been on the train with Ray. Light, on the other hand, is aware that if he gets hospitalized, people might suspect him if the deaths suddenly stop. He continues to plan his moves carefully. L receives the news of Misora's death and recognizes her as a former FBI agent. While some officers consider her death a suicide, L speculates that she might have stumbled upon a crucial clue. L decides to shift the focus of the investigation to the people Ray Penber was investigating. He reveals that Ray was looking into Deputy Director General Kitamura and his family, as well as Detective Superintendent Yagami and his family, which shocks Chief Yagami. Back at home, Light senses that something is off. He avoids Ryuk's attempt to engage in conversation and heads to the bathroom. Chief Yagami, monitoring the surveillance, wonders if Light has something hidden in his room. Light takes precautions against potential surveillance devices, carefully checking for wiretaps and surveillance equipment. He intentionally purchases an adult magazine and brings it home to create a cover story for locking his room. Ryuk helps Light locate all the surveillance cameras in his room, which amounts to a total of 64. To navigate this situation, Light conceals a small device in a bag of potato chips, allowing him to write down names of criminals with his left hand while pretending to solve equations with his right hand. This plan provides him with an alibi in case any of the criminals he writes down still die.
I'll take a potato chip and eat it.
Watari informs L about the deaths of the criminals Light has written down, and L becomes intrigued. He notices that Chief Yagami's house was unusually cleared on the day the cameras were installed. Ryuk humorously comments on Light's extravagant purchase of a mini LCD TV, and how he used a bag of potato chips to disguise his writing activities. Light walks down the road, still uncertain about the news that was broadcasted concerning the agents. Ryuk's arms finally return to their normal state after he eats an apple that Light bought for him.
I might actually write your name in my death note and kill you, just like that.
Meanwhile, Chief Yagami asks L about the status of his family being cleared as suspects. L supposes that Chief Yagami is right, considering that Kira would have had to watch the broadcast in order to set up his victims. Back at home, Light devises a plan to continue his killings without drawing suspicion. He turns on the mini television on his desk and concludes that if he kills minor criminals while they're being broadcasted, it won't raise suspicions. When he's out, he plans to remember the names of criminals shown on TV, and kill them at random times. He believes he has effectively countered the surveillance cameras. L reviews the footage and decides to remove the wiretaps and cameras from the households. He contemplates the nature of Kira's actions, acknowledging that Kira's behavior is more consistent with someone childish than a divine judge. He recognizes that Kira does exist. Light is heading to an entrance exam for college, and surprisingly, L is also taking the same test. During the freshman address, Light is called on stage as the representative, along with another representative named Ryuk. L appears in his distinctive outfit, and Light notices him immediately. After the address, L approaches Light and proposes a deal. If Light doesn't reveal L's true identity, L will share something about the Kira case. Although Light is shocked, he agrees to listen. L reveals that he is the L and has revealed himself to potentially gain Light's assistance in solving the Kira case. As Light returns home, he locks his room and becomes increasingly furious. He feels humiliated by L's actions and wants to kill him, but he realizes that any action against L would likely be traced back to him. He acknowledges that he underestimated L and is frustrated by the turn of events. The stage is now set for a tense battle of wits between L and Light. L and Light are now both at university and they're preparing for a tennis game. Light asks L about his British background, but L reassures him that he won't reveal anything that might compromise L's identity. L deduces that Kira hates to lose, so he goes all out in their friendly match. L's first shot passes by Light, who doesn't even notice it due to L's speed and skill. While L is being questioned about the case by the deputy, he avoids sharing information with anyone not directly involved in the investigation. The tennis match between Light and L is so intense and skillful that a large crowd gathers to watch. Light considers losing on purpose to avoid suspicion of being Kira, but he ultimately wins the match. After the game, Light and L talk and head to a cafeteria. L reveals that he suspects Light of being Kira with only a 1% possibility, but he's not fully convinced yet. L suggests that once he's sure Light is not Kira, he would like to work with him on the Kira case. This surprises Light, who had planned to suggest this idea himself. They discuss deductive skills, and L tests Light's reasoning abilities by presenting coded letters from prison inmates. L purposefully introduces a fake letter to confuse Light, all while trying to gauge Light's reactions and responses. L asks Light to imagine himself in L's position and think about how he would confirm if someone was Kira. Light casually provides a sound deductive response, further impressing L and strengthening L's determination to work with him. During their conversation, both L and Light receive a phone call informing them that Chief Yagami, Light's father, has suffered a heart attack. They rush to the hospital, where Chief Yagami is stable. Chief Yagami confirms to L that he is indeed L. Light is conflicted. He wants to eliminate L but also wants to proceed cautiously. He decides to act concerned about his father for the time being and agrees to cooperate with the case. As visiting hours end, Light asks L if there's anything he can do to prove he's not Kira. L responds that he won't take away Light's basic human rights or consider suggestions from suspects. L leaves, and the scene shifts to a news channel receiving an envelope with chess pieces and a letter containing a message from Kira. Chief and the other officers are discussing the Misora case. Watari interrupts the meeting and asks L to watch the TV news. The news is reporting on videotapes containing footage of 2 killings. As the broadcast continues, the names taken by Kira are revealed, and those news anchors die on live TV. A recorded message in Kira's voice plays, where he states his vision of creating a world without evil. He offers cooperation to those who want to help, promising not to kill the innocent if they try to catch him. However, he warns that those who oppose him should keep their sentiments to themselves. Speaking of the Death Note, did you know you could get your very own notebook to write down your ex's name like me in the description below? Or even better yet, give a family member or a friend their own notebook. But personally, I only write down my exes and sometimes myself, hoping for a nice outcome. The notebook includes the rules of the Death Note set by a Shinigami, and some of them even come with L's necklace as a combo set. You'll also have a chance to get an additional free Light or L plushie in your package, so make sure to check it out as you're watching this video. Anyways, back to this masterpiece. One of the officers rushes to the news channel station to stop the broadcast, but he suddenly collapses and dies from a heart attack. Light realizes that Kira's abilities seem to have expanded beyond just needing a name to kill, which means he can target anyone. Kira issues a challenge to the police, asking if they want to help him create a new world and giving them 4 days to make an announcement. Chief Yagami intervenes at the news station by crashing an ambulance into the building, attempting to halt the airing. Outside the station, another officer dies as soon as he steps out of a vehicle. L calls the deputy director to stop the police response for 5 minutes. The station is surrounded by police officers with shields protecting Chief Yagami at the front entrance. The tapes and envelopes are handed over to L, who sends an envelope for forensic analysis and starts analyzing the tapes. L decides to have the 4th tape aired, as it supposedly contains an answer to Kira's challenge. L realizes that another Shinigami has come to the human world, and another death note has fallen into the hands of someone aligned with Kira. This new individual possesses the Shinigami eyes, which grants them greater killing abilities than Light's. If this new individual isn't stopped, L believes that he will kill him within 4 days. L also suspects that the person responsible for these recent actions is an imposter, a second Kira, who is tarnishing the original Kira's name. L suggests involving Chief Yagami's son, Light, in the investigation due to his exceptional deductive skills. Meanwhile, a girl named Misa is walking around, expressing her belief in Kira and talking to a Shinigami. She sent the envelopes and tapes to the news channel to catch Kira's attention. Chief Yagami contacts Light and urgently requests his presence at the headquarters to help find the fake Kira before anyone else does. Upon arriving, Light is introduced to the task force members. L asks Light to review the current information on Kira and to specifically watch the 4th tape. They are subtly testing Light's deductive skills by allowing him to discover the existence of the second Kira on his own. As Light watches the footage of the second Kira, he is disgusted by the imposter's actions and how they are tarnishing the reputation of the real Kira. L asks for Light's opinion after watching the video, and Light suggests that there might be more than one person with Kira's power. He explains his reasoning, and L finds Light's conclusion to be plausible, making him a valuable asset to the investigation. The task force agrees that their first step is to locate the second Kira, who seems to be sympathetic to the real Kira. They decide to send a fake message from the real Kira in hopes of luring out the second Kira. Light is tasked with scripting a message to be aired on the news, which is subsequently broadcasted. Misa, the second Kira, watches the broadcast and responds with a message, indicating her willingness to follow the real Kira's instructions. Light is uncertain about whether he can trust her or not. In the fake Kira's message, she mentions the concept of Shinigami eyes, which shocks Light. L is also taken aback by this revelation. The second Kira proposes a meeting with the real Kira, during which they will prove their identities by showing each other their Shinigami. L falls out of his chair in shock, finding it hard to believe the existence of Shinigami. The task force speculates that the second Kira is acting independently and is likely pressuring the real Kira to prevent her capture by the police. They hope that through the exchange of messages between the two Kiras, they might obtain some physical evidence related to the real Kira. Meanwhile, Misa speaks with her Shinigami, Rem, and asks if it's possible that Ryuk deceived the Shinigami king by giving a death note to a human. Rem is one of the few Shinigami who knows how to kill another Shinigami. She reveals the method of making a Shinigami fall in love with a human, leading to their death. Rem recounts the story of Jealous, a Shinigami who died this way. Misa realizes that Jealous saved her life, so his death note now belongs to her. Misa visits the same cafe that Light frequents, while Light ponders how to contact the second Kira without L noticing. Another message from the second Kira arrives, this time in the form of a video showing a diary. The second Kira has included a coded message in the video that only Light can decipher. She has arranged a meeting with him on May 30th during a home game. Meanwhile, L is planning to capture the second Shinigami, and he secretly assigns an officer to watch Light without anyone's knowledge. Light returns home and consults Ryuk about whether Shinigami in the human world can communicate with each other. Ryuk explains that it's against the rules unless they have permission from the human they are attached to. However, since Light and Ryuk have no such agreement, it's possible that another Shinigami might approach Light. Ryuk mentions that it's not common, but it depends on the Shinigami's personality. The next day, Light introduces the officer, who is secretly watching him, as a distant cousin to his friends. They walk around in a group so that if the other Shinigami sees Ryuk, he won't be able to determine whom he's attached to, given that Ryuk is with multiple people. Light waits near the entrance of the Note Blue where they are supposed to meet. Misa arrives and finds Light by being unable to see the lifespan of the Death Note holder. After their brief interaction, she leaves and conducts research about him that night. Another message arrives from the second Kira, stating that she has found Kira and appreciates the help of the police and the media. L is considering offering a deal in exchange for the real Kira's name. However, a police warning prevents the second Kira from meeting the real Kira. Misa rushes to Light's house and introduces herself to his sister, claiming that she has an important notebook to give to Light. His sister calls him down, and Misa introduces herself as Ame Misa. She hands over her death note to Light, and after he touches it, he is able to see her Shinigami, Rem. She explains that she'll do anything he says, but she wants him to establish a relationship with her. Misa insists that they can just be acquaintances, and Light agrees to act like her boyfriend. He realizes that her Shinigami eyes will be a valuable asset for him. Light understands the importance of gaining Misa's trust to utilize her and her Shinigami eyes effectively. He shows her Ryuk and she shares the method to kill a Shinigami. He instructs her to dispose of all the materials used for creating the videotapes after sending one final video, which he scripts. Misa requests that they go on a date once a week. However, Light reminds her that L already suspects him of being Kira, which restricts their interaction. Misa warns Light that if she sees him with other girls, she will kill them all. He tries to make her understand the seriousness of the situation, mentioning that he has control over both death notes. Misa also gets a warning from Rem, who says that if Light tries to harm her, Rem will kill Light, even if it means sacrificing herself. Light's mother interrupts their conversation, prompting Misa to leave. Misa is deeply infatuated with Light, and he realizes that he can use this to his advantage. His plan is to eliminate L by using Misa's Shinigami eyes. Light and L continue to exchange sharp sentences during their discussions. L informs Light about another message from the fake Kira and suspects that both Kiras might have joined forces. As they engage in their intellectual battle, L hints that he no longer suspects Light, and even considers him a friend. This revelation shocks Light. L invites Light to play tennis, giving Light an opportunity to eliminate him. However, as Light walks home, Misa unexpectedly jumps on him. Light is frustrated but conceals his emotions.
This is the first time in my life that I've been provoked to hit a woman.
He escorts her back home, and once they arrive, Light secretly consults Rem about making Misa happy. Rem agrees that killing L would fulfill that goal, as L means nothing to her. This surprises Light, as he didn't expect L's potential death to be viewed so lightly. Rem proposes a plan to Light. If Light takes L somewhere with him, Rem can kill L immediately. Light contemplates whether it's the right time to make a decision, but he plans to come up with a plan to kill L that night. Misa gives Light her old cell phone to use. Light struggles with the decision of whether to kill L or not. He finally decides that the next day will be L's last. Meanwhile, L confides in Chief Yagami that if he dies within a few days, it should be considered as evidence that Light is Kira. L explains that if both Kiras are working together, he might be considering L as a suspect because there's no one else. He acknowledges that it's a risky move, but he sees it as a necessary gamble. The next day, while Light is at the university, L approaches him and reveals that Light is the only person outside of the task force who knows L's true identity. L informs Light that if he dies in the coming days, it should be taken as evidence that Light is Kira. However, Misa suddenly arrives and introduces herself to L as Light's girlfriend. She attempts to reveal L's true name using her Shinigami eyes, but Light stops her just in time. Misa's actions draw attention, and she becomes surrounded by a crowd. L excuses himself from Light and later receives a call. He informs Light that Misa has been taken into custody as a suspect in being the second Kira. Light realizes that he was careless and that the challenge is just beginning. Misa is interrogated, and L advises Chief Yagami to be prepared for Light to be a prime witness. Misa, during the interrogation, speaks out, urging them to kill her. She refuses to confess to being the second Kira and invokes Rem's name, asking Rem to kill her. Rem informs Light about Misa's condition and proposes a solution. If Misa forfeits ownership of her death note, all memories of the murders she committed with it will be erased, along with her knowledge that Light is Kira. However, Misa won't be able to see Ryuk or Rem anymore. Misa eventually agrees and forfeits ownership of her death note. Rem informs Light that if he can save Misa, Rem will kill him. Light relinquishes ownership of the death note, causing Misa's attitude to suddenly change. Rem takes the death note and leaves. Misa pretends to act as if she's been kidnapped by a stalker who is a fan of hers. Light calls Elle and they arrive at a room for questioning. Light begins to act as if he has a split personality, claiming that he might be Kira. The chief struggles to handle the situation, and Elle questions Light while observing his behavior. Elle dismisses the idea of Light having a split personality since he was under surveillance for 5 days and showed no such signs. Other task force members mention that criminals continued to die even when Light had no knowledge of them, proving his innocence during surveillance. Light contemplates whether he orchestrated the situation intentionally. Eventually, Light convinces his father to allow him to be detained and imprisoned in a cell. Chief Yagami agrees and asks Elle to remove him from the investigation due to personal feelings and Light being a suspect. In confinement, Light appears worn out. 7 days later, Light orders Ryuk to get rid of it, indicating that he wants Ryuk to take out the death note. He starts acting as if he has forgotten everything and pleads with Elle to release him, claiming that he can't remember any crimes he committed. Elle finds it puzzling that Light would be acting without self-awareness, and although it doesn't make sense, it feels like there might be some truth to it. L continues to deny Light's request to be released, and an officer questions whether they can just conclude that Light is Kira and close the case. Meanwhile, a large number of criminals die in a single day. Matsuda informs Chief Yagami about this new development, but L forbids him from telling Light. L is perplexed by the sudden change in events, and Light's behavior seems contradictory to what he expected. It has been a month since Kira resumed killing, and L is still working to gather enough evidence to confirm Light's identity as Kira. Chief Yagami remains in confinement alongside Light, awaiting his son's release. Despite their efforts, Kira continues to eliminate criminals. The stress and tension among the team are palpable. Light suggests that Misa's strong feelings for him might be a potential avenue to uncover more information. An officer accuses L of stubbornly refusing to admit he might be wrong about Light. The killings persist, and it has been 50 days since they began. L asks Chief Yagami to come to the headquarters for a private discussion as Light's father. L presents a hypothesis to him that if they publicly announce the execution of Light and Misa, the killings might stop. He claims that this proposal has been accepted by top officials of the UN and the Japanese government. If the killings continue, L is willing to take responsibility and end his own life. Chief Yagami and the others are taken to a secluded location, where Chief Yagami pretends to execute Light by firing a blank shot.
No, Dad!
It was a theatrical act designed by L to test the reactions and reveal the truth. L and Light are released from confinement, while Misa remains under surveillance as a possible second Kira. L questions Misa and asks her how she would feel if Light were Kira. Her response confirms her unwavering gratitude towards Kira for avenging her parents' murderer. Although it seems like she might be the second Kira, L is unwilling to accept this conclusion easily. Misa will continue to be monitored, and Matsuda will serve as her manager. Aizawa interrupts the conversation, urging them to get to the point. He ushers Misa away and throws her into her room. L advises Light to take his relationship with Misa seriously in order to gain more information about the second Kira. However, Light refuses to exploit someone's feelings for information. As the team continues their efforts, L suggests using a building he owns as their new investigation headquarters. The team moves into the new building, and Matsuda questions L about the costs involved. The story continues with the complex interplay between Light, L, and the pursuit of Kira. L, Light, and Misa are on a date, but L's lack of enthusiasm is evident. Light questions L about his reluctance to move to the new location, and L admits that he's depressed because his deduction about Light being Kira was wrong. Despite this, he still suspects Light, which is why the chains are in place to keep them together. L then proposes a new theory: Kira's power can be passed from person to person.
Could you stop it with your creepy hobby?
You can call me whatever you like. Last chance for cake.
This revelation complicates the task of catching Kira, as even if they catch those under Kira's influence, the power can transfer to others, and the former individuals will have no memory of their actions. This means that catching anyone may be useless. Frustrated and angry about L's suspicion, Light punches him hard and throws him against a wall. L responds by kicking Light, and a physical fight ensues between the two. This fight is monitored by Chief Yagami and the others through cameras. Matsuda calls them to break up the fight, and Light takes this opportunity to share information about the Yotsuba group. The Yotsuba group is believed to be eliminating their competitors for profit, using Kira's power. Yotsuba's board members discuss whom to target next with a request to Kira. The head of the police department is forced to halt the Kira investigation due to threats from Kira against politicians. In response, Chief Yagami, Matsuda, and Aizawa consider resigning from the police force as they feel powerless against Kira. However, L intervenes and stops them from resigning. He tests their resolve and loyalty by revealing that all financial concerns will be taken care of. This move indicates that L still needs their assistance despite his words. Aizawa, still frustrated, resigns anyway and leaves the building. Light and Chief Yagami identify certain deaths that seem to benefit the Yotsuba group. L suggests a thorough investigation of Yotsuba. Two new members, Aber and Wedi, join the team. Aber is a con man, while Wedi is a skilled thief. L introduces them to the rest of the team as professionals from the underworld, indicating his willingness to use unorthodox methods to solve the case. The intricate cat and mouse game between L, Light, and Kira continues to unfold. Matsuda is eager to contribute to the team's efforts and attempts to infiltrate the Yotsuba group of companies. Meanwhile, Light ponders the hypothetical scenario of becoming evil if he possessed the Death Note again. Watari informs L that Vice President Kita Masahiko from the Rights and Planning Department of the Yotsuba group has requested the services of Detective Iraldo Coil to uncover L's identity. However, L reveals that Iraldo Coil is actually L himself, using this tactic to set a trap for those attempting to discover his true identity. Matsuda manages to find Yotsuba's secret meeting room and tries to eavesdrop on their conversation from behind a closed door. However, he is discovered when the door unexpectedly opens, and he falls into the room, revealing himself. To avoid suspicion, Matsuda pretends to be Misa's manager and presents his identification. L secretly communicates with Matsuda, referring to him as his friend, to assess his situation. L theorizes that if Matsuda were to die, it would lend credibility to the suspicion against Yotsuba. Using this idea, they orchestrate a plan. As Misa finishes a photo shoot, Matsuda calls her and instructs her to appear at Yotsuba's branch office. Misa complies and arrives at the location. Misa's team and the Yotsuba board members organize a night out together. The party takes place at a location where both Light and L can observe them. L instructs Matsuda to act drunk and pretend to fall from the edge of a balcony intentionally. While Matsuda's fall is carefully controlled, a decoy is put in his place. This action prompts panic among the Yotsuba group, and they quickly depart from the scene, leaving Matsuda's body behind. An ambulance arrives and takes the body away. The following day, Aber contacts the vice president and demands $10 million in exchange for revealing L's identity. After a meeting with the group, Yotsuba agrees to pay the ransom. Weddy, another member of L's team, sneaks into the company to install cameras in their conference room, enabling them to monitor the group's discussions and actions. The intricate and strategic game between L's team and Yotsuba intensifies as both sides employ various tactics to gain the upper hand. L and the team are eavesdropping on Yotsuba Group's conversation where they discuss a report sent by Koel. The report contains a warning that if Yotsuba continues its killing spree for profit, L might link them to Kira. The group acknowledges the warning and decides to slow down their pace. They plan to eliminate emerging company owners who pose a threat to their business. L suggests that they confirm this plan by observing if the individuals they're planning to kill indeed die. L and Light contemplate contacting one of the Yotsuba members. They decide to call the group and inform them that they have planted cameras and wiretaps in their meeting room, revealing that they possess the entire footage of their discussions. Light proposes that the killings be delayed for a month, and they negotiate with the Yotsuba member that if he cooperates with them, he will be cleared of charges under the pretense that Kira forced them into the meeting. Light instructs him not to disclose their conversations and merely observe. The member agrees to this plan. During this interaction, L had considered the possibility that if Light accepted the role of the next L, it might be a sign that he is Kira. However, Light's refusal and explanation align with L's line of thought, which leads to a heated argument and physical altercation between the two.
Do I seem like that kind of person to you?
Yes, you do. I've always thought so.
While some team members suggest arresting the Yotsuba group as evidence, L opposes this idea, believing that even if they're arrested, Kira will kill them, rendering their efforts in vain. He emphasizes the importance of discovering Kira's true identity rather than prematurely arresting suspects. He announces his intention to leave the investigation and continue it according to his own methods, as conflicting views among the team could hinder progress. Misa enters the scene and declares her choice between Light and Kira, expressing her love for Light, using her influence to further their investigation. He plans to inform Yotsuba Group via Koel that Misa might have a connection with L due to being under surveillance, suggesting she might be the second Kira. Light opposes this plan, but L sees it as a way to pressure the group, playing a risky game. Misa becomes impressed by L's tactics, and her growing bond with L intensifies the dynamics of the investigation, pushing Light to join L in the pursuit of Kira.
I would never dream about living in a world without light.
Yes, that would be dark.
L's plan to have Misa hired by the Yotsuba group as part of their commercials is in motion. The current Kira, Higuchi Kyosuke, is interested in making Misa his wife. Rem is initially taken aback by Higuchi's plans. During the interview preparation, Aber and L coach Misa on how to behave and answer questions. Mogi acts as her current manager during the interview. The panel includes Aber, who poses as a marketing manager. They ask Misa about her detainment by L, but the interview takes an unexpected turn when one of the interviewers excuses himself to the restroom, and Misa follows suit. In the restroom, Rem approaches Misa, touching her with a piece of paper from the Death Note. Rem warns Misa about the danger she's in and informs her that touching her with the piece of paper won't restore her memories. Rem explains the situation to Misa, revealing the existence of the current Kira and the need to trust Light. He also tells her that when she returns to the interview room, the person Rem stands beside will be Kira. As Misa rejoins the interview, she sees Higuchi Kyosuke as the person beside Rem, confirming that he is Kira. After the interview, Misa reports her success to the team at headquarters and sits beside Light. She informs them that she has been hired by the Yotsuba group. The next day, Misa secretly sneaks out to meet Higuchi, despite Light's objections. Mogi discovers Misa's actions and realizes that Higuchi has been pursuing her since the party. Rem observes from the backseat and contemplates whether Misa's actions are a signal for him to kill Higuchi if something happens to her. During their meeting, Misa reveals to Higachi that she is the second Kira. Higachi becomes confused and thinks of ways to keep her close to him. He confesses to Misa that he is Kira. Misa then asks him to prove it by causing a death. She secretly writes a name down, and Rem uses the death note to fulfill the request. Higachi admits to being Kira, and Misa records his confession as evidence, which she later shares with Light and the rest of the team. This marks a significant step forward in their investigation to catch Kira. L's team has successfully identified Higachi as Kira, but they still need to determine how he uses the death note to kill. To track Higachi's movements outside the building, Wedi has installed wiretaps in his cars and house, allowing them to gather more information about his activities. L discusses with Light and Misa the concept of passing on Kira's power to others. Light explains that Kira's powers can only move by the will of the person who possesses them, and they brainstorm ideas to create a situation where Higachi cannot pass on his power to others. Their plan involves using Matsuda as bait and announcing on TV that they know who Kira is. The goal is to make Higachi panic and prevent him from passing on his powers. Meanwhile, 3 of the Yotsuba group members, including Namikawa, discuss their assumptions about Kira's identity, concluding that Higachi is likely Kira due to his lust for power and money. Light contacts Namikawa and reveals that they are planning to catch Kira that night. Namikawa claims to know who Kira is, surprising Light. Namikawa informs Higachi to watch TV, and Higachi becomes anxious about the situation. Higachi tries to gather information by calling Misa to ask for Matsuda's real name, but she cuts the call. He then contacts one of the Yotsuba members to stop the TV program, but his request is denied. Higachi's frustration grows as he realizes that things are not going his way, and he becomes increasingly agitated. Higachi starts moving, and Wedi is following him to track his movements as part of their plan to catch Kira. The team is working together to manipulate Higachi's actions and gather the evidence they need to apprehend him. Higachi's frustration grows as he listens to the TV program and realizes that Matsuda is revealing how he uncovered Kira's identity. He confides in Rem, the Shinigami, asking for advice on how to proceed. Rem encourages him to go to Yoshida Productions, suggesting that he use the death note to kill whoever is revealing the truth about Kira. Light and L are observing Higachi's actions, baffled by his conversations with an unseen entity. Higachi arrives at Yoshida Productions and begins searching for files. Light and L continue to watch, trying to decipher his intentions. Higachi writes a name in the death note, but nothing seems to happen. He becomes frustrated and tries to call Misa again, only to be met with her continued avoidance. Frustrated and desperate, Higachi considers making a deal for the Shinigami's eyes, which would grant him the ability to see people's names and lifespans. Light and L are still puzzled about Higachi's actions and the reason behind his seemingly unsuccessful attempts. Suddenly, Higachi gains the Shinigami eyes after making the deal. With this newfound power, he drives recklessly and is stopped by a police officer for speeding. However, he writes the officer's name in the death note, causing the officer to die of a heart attack, allowing Higachi to escape. L realizes the situation has become urgent and orders his team to capture Higachi immediately. He contacts the head of the police department to provide them with Higachi's location. L and Light hurry to the scene in L's helicopter. Higachi tries to identify Matsuda's real name by reviewing Yotsuba's surveillance footage, but all the footage of Matsuda has been erased by Wedi. Higachi then heads to Sakura TV station to find Matsuda and kill him. As he arrives, the studio appears empty. However, Chief and Wedi are waiting to apprehend him. A confrontation ensues, during which Higachi shoots Chief and attempts to escape. He heads towards the highway but finds the road blocked by police cars. In a final desperate attempt, Higachi tries to shoot himself, but Watari intervenes and disarms him. The tense situation reaches a critical point as Higachi's capture becomes imminent. L and his team are determined to apprehend him and uncover the truth behind his use of the death note. As the team captures Higachi and brings him back to the helicopter, they blindfold him and begin questioning him about how he used the death note to kill people. Higachi reluctantly reveals the existence of the death note and its powers, and he is shocked to see the Shinigami Rem as Chief touches the notebook. L quickly realizes that there are 2 death notes in play. L instructs them to bring the death note to the helicopter. As L touches the notebook, he also sees Rem, confirming its authenticity. However, the situation takes a surprising turn as Light touches the death note and regains all his memories associated with it. Light had successfully exchanged ownership of the death notes without anyone suspecting. With a piece of the death note hidden in his watch, Light has a contingency plan in place. He writes Higachi's name on the paper, causing him to die of a heart attack. The team analyzes the Death Note back at headquarters, and Light's fake instruction about the 13-day rule serves to distract them. L questions Rem about the Death Note's abilities and rules, and she explains the specifics. Aizawa and Matsuda suggest removing the surveillance on Light and Misa, finally clearing them of suspicion. Light reflects that L bought into the fake rules he'd written for the Death Note. Later, Light instructs Misa to retrieve the second Death Note, hidden where he pointed. Misa touches it and regains her memories of the Death Note. Inside, she finds a letter from Light, instructing her to kill L. However, Misa can't recall L's name. Ryuk returns to her side, and she offers him an apple. Misa strikes a second deal with Ryuk, exchanging half of her remaining lifespan for Shinigami eyes. Returning to HQ, Misa touches Light with Ryuk's Death Note, indicating that she intends to follow Light's plan. Rem watches, her knowledge of the situation growing increasingly complex as Misa's actions unfold. As the story progresses, a glimpse of L's childhood is revealed. Watari notices the concern on L's face and asks him about the problem. Meanwhile, Light is told by L that he is free to enjoy his love life. Light, however, remains focused on solving the Kira case. Despite this, Light orders Misa to continue punishing criminals using the Death Note. News of the murders resuming arrives, indicating the presence of another Kira. L contemplates the rules of the Death Note, especially regarding the torn pages, and is confused by the complexities. Rem, the Shinigami observing the situation, finally understands Light's plan. Light has orchestrated events so that Rem will have to kill L to protect Misa, which will also lead to Rem's own demise, thus extending Misa's lifespan. Light takes advantage of Rem's care for Misa, knowing that Rem wouldn't abandon her. One rainy day, Light notices L standing outside in the rain. As Light approaches, L cryptically mentions the noisy bells, creating an eerie atmosphere. They both move indoors, and L massages Light's foot in silence.
Tell me, Light, from the moment you were born, has there ever been a point where you've actually told the truth?
L mentions that they will soon part ways and leaves, leaving Light to ponder his words. L begins experimenting with the Death Note himself, testing the 13-day rule with approval from higher authorities. In the midst of this, Rem kills Watari, L's longtime associate. L starts feeling discomfort in his chest and collapses, with Light catching him as he falls. Light's outward demeanor reflects a sense of brokenness and despair.
Everyone, the Shinigami.
The group begins searching for Rem, but they find that Rem has turned to dust, indicating her death. Light seizes Rem's Death Note and realizes that everyone in his way has been eliminated, solidifying his belief that he is the god of the new world he envisions. Kira's identity was traced back to the Kanto region of Japan. He orchestrated the deaths of 12 FBI officers and 161 criminals. As part of his strategy, after eliminating 12 FBI agents, Kira conducted experiments with prisoners to determine their responses before death. L deduced that Kira could be among those investigated by the FBI from the 14th to the 19th. Suspecting Chief Yagami's son, he placed wiretaps and cameras in his room. L confronted Light, revealing his identity and casting doubts on Light being Kira, engaging in psychological tactics. Suddenly, another Kira emerged on TV. L invited Light to join his investigation. They scrutinized a girl named Misa, suspecting her as the second Kira. Subsequently, Light, Misa, and Chief Yagami were confined to verify their involvement with the murders. Despite their confinement, the killings persisted. They conducted tests involving Light, Misa, and Chief Yagami to clear their names. Light, having relinquished ownership of the Death Note, assisted L in uncovering the current Kira's identity. It was revealed that the Yotsuba group was linked to the killings. By leveraging Misa and Matsuda, they identified the current holder of the Death Note, who disclosed the notebook's secrets. Rem, the Shinigami, became visible to them. Light regained his memory upon touching the Death Note. L conducted experiments to ascertain the authenticity of the fake rules of the Death Note. Rem killed L to prevent Misa's capture by the police, resulting in Rem's demise. L left a message and record commemorating his achievements. Light acknowledged this message. Following L's secret funeral, there was media coverage of Watari's achievements, but nothing about L to safeguard against theft. Light deleted the system. He replicated a voice like L's, which they could use to manipulate the police, as they had done before. Discussions revolved around the new L, while Light felt a void without L's presence. The focus shifted to capturing Kira. Light proposed to Chief Yagami the idea of renting an apartment for unrestricted work. They urged Chief Yagami to hide the Death Note in a secure location. Light invited Misa to live with him. However, Light experienced sadness without L. Ryuk remarked that life lacked excitement without L. Light declared his intention to shape a new world and killed Wedi, Aber, Namikawa, and the other remaining members of the group.
This is my perfect victory!
He joined the police agency in 2012. The world was entering a dark era where Kira's rule prevailed. At an orphanage formerly owned by Watari, someone informed the owner that 3 are dead. Mello is consumed by anger over L's demise, while Nier maintains an unusually composed demeanor. Mello inquires of Roger about L's chosen successor. Roger advises them to collaborate as a united force, a notion that Mello isn't fond of but reluctantly accepts. He then urges Roger to appoint Nier as the new L before departing the institution. In the present day, Nier is at the White House briefing the president and FBI chief about the existence of the Death Note in Japan, and the current L, the FBI chief, confirms that Nier is L's legitimate heir. Meanwhile, Light and Misa are cohabiting. Natsuda and Chief are discussing internet censorship when Chief receives a call from Aizawa regarding the kidnapping of the NPA director. In haste, Light, Chief, and Matsuda rush to the HQ. Aizawa explains that the kidnapper demands the Death Note in exchange for the director's release, leaving Light stunned. The team deliberates over the leaked information about the Death Note. An FBI agent contacts Chief, suggesting that Japanese law enforcement is unreliable and that the Death Note should be handed over to their jurisdiction. As Chief confronts the agent angrily, Nier listens in, acknowledging that the FBI agent is unaware of their plans. Nier instructs Commander Rister to convey their offer to assist in rescuing the director and apprehending the kidnapper while looking for an opportunity to take possession of the Death Note. Mello and his group investigate the director's connection to the Death Note and the team that discovered it. Mello is determined to secure both Death Notes, especially the number 1 notebook, by any means necessary before Nier does. Light utilizes the Death Note to kill the director, prompting Mello to deduce that Kira is someone with knowledge of the kidnapping. He plots to abduct Seiyu and Light. The task force debates the issue of trusting the FBI. Mello contacts Chief, informing him of the director's death and their intention to exchange the Death Note for his daughter. Mello capitalizes on the director's demise. Light speculates that Kira might be intervening to prevent the Death Note from falling into criminal hands, a theory shared by Nier. Nier seeks information about Mello but finds no substantial leads. Mello contacts Chief, instructing him to bring the Death Note to Los Angeles. Light, posing as L, contacts the FBI. During a conversation between Nier and Light, Nier refers to Light as L number 2 and introduces himself as N, signifying his affiliation with SPK, and expresses his full support in capturing the culprits. Light finds N reminiscent of L and experiences an uncanny feeling. Light briefs N on the situation, revealing that Chief's daughter is also kidnapped. N comprehends the urgency and grants Light complete authority over satellite surveillance in Los Angeles. Rister questions whether they can trust the new L, and N suggests exploiting him. Their main objective as SPK is to obtain the Death Note and apprehend Kira. Chief contemplates sacrificing himself, but Light opposes the idea. He prepares to travel to Los Angeles and brings Misa along. Light considers the possibility that he might need to resort to killing Seiyu in the worst-case scenario. Meanwhile, Chief is met by an individual who escorts him to a hijacked plane. The plane transports them to a different location, leading to a desert where a secret base is located. A masked man instructs Chief to surrender the Death Note. After testing the Death Note, Chief and Seiyu are released. The Death Note is transferred using an untraceable missile. Light is overwhelmed with frustration and emptiness. Several SPK agents have committed suicide or died. N blames Light for this tragedy, but they recognize that arguing won't be productive. They decide to collaborate and work together. N confides in Light, revealing that he suspects the person behind these events is Mello, an orphan from Whammy's house in Winchester, England. N explains that Mello is engaged in a game to see who can capture Kira first. In another development, a different Shinigami, the true owner of a Death Note, seeks permission from the Shinigami King to enter the human world and reclaim the Death Note. The Shinigami King grants the request. Shidu, the Shinigami, encounters Ryuk and inquires about his Death Note. Ryuk cryptically informs Shidu that if he desires his Death Note, he should search for it himself. Aizawa provides Light with information about Whammy's house, an institution for exceptionally gifted children and potential successors to L. Nier, and Mello were among these children, with Mello chasing after Nier. Light ponders the dynamics between Nier and Mello and their connection. As Light continues his battle against L, he recognizes the need to uncover details about Mello and his associates. With Misa's Shinigami eyes, Light identifies the current owner of a Death Note, someone whose lifespan she cannot see. Light manipulates circumstances to send a message to this owner, revealing his hideout's location. As Light revels in his success, Shidu observes the letter and the address. Shidu uses his Death Note to make Senator, a member of Mello's group, touch it, rendering Shidu visible to them. The others touch the Death Note and can now perceive Shidu. However, their attempts to harm him prove futile. Light employs a strategy similar to the one he used before relinquishing the Death Note. He contacts Chief and claims to be Kira, sending a death note to them with names of mafia members and FBI officers, scheduled to die on November 10th at 11:59 p.m. Recognizing this as a prime opportunity, they obtain the death note and Chief exchanges his life for Shinigami eyes. The criminals' deaths unfold as planned. Following the plan outlined by Light, Chief and the team storm the hideout given by Light, successfully retrieving the death note. Light directs them to track down Mello. As Light activates the death note, Chief unexpectedly gains the ability to see his own lifespan, a testament to his innocence as Kira. With this newfound realization, Chief meets his end with a sense of relief. Light passes a death note to Shido, who departs with it. Recently in Japan, a prevailing fear of Kira has gripped the population, leading to an unexpected peace. The notion has spread that any wrongdoing will result in the exposure of one's name on the internet, followed by Kira executing judgment. Kira has been heralded as a force of justice. The President of the United States takes to Live TV to make an announcement that they have embraced Kira's methods. Light experiences a mixture of anger and satisfaction upon hearing this news. While he dislikes the President's decision, he recognizes the impact it will have. The decision is made to refrain from pursuing Kira's capture. Among the team, Matsuda ardently believes in Kira's justice, sparking a debate with Aizawa. Light, eavesdropping on their conversation, offers his perspective. Kira's status as good or evil hinges on whether they are caught. He envisions a future where Kira's justice is universally embraced. The SPK has been disbanded, and N expresses dissatisfaction with Kira's acceptance. Mello takes a member of the SPK hostage and infiltrates their office, with N granting him entry. Mello's actions provide N with crucial information, bringing them closer to unraveling Kira's identity. Mello divulges details about the Death Note and Shinigami, including the existence of fake rules. Afterward, he departs, leaving N and Mello both engaged in a race to capture Kira. N ponders the fake rules and tests the waters by attempting the 13-day rule, putting his life at risk. Light is wary of using this rule, seeking advice from others to maintain his facade of innocence. N questions the group's suspicions about Light's true nature, leading to doubts about the 13-day rule and Light's potential role as Kira. Light takes a bold step by reaching out to the US president, branding him as Kira and urging the disbandment of SPK. He proposes utilizing agencies like the FBI and CIA to investigate SPK. Aizawa harbors suspicions about Light's motivations. Attempting to secretly contact N, Aizawa's conversation is overheard by Light, who listens in from behind a closed door. Amidst these developments, the public grows hostile toward the SPK base, and Light initiates a call to N to inquire about the situation. N, fueled by anger and frustration over Light's manipulations and lies, responds to Light's inquiry with palpable resentment. Mello watches the unfolding situation on television as Nier identifies that Kira is likely within their own task force. When suspicions fall on Light, Aizawa's doubt becomes more pronounced. Nier instructs Rister to employ L's Fortune and the anti-Kira individuals they have enlisted. Suddenly, money begins to rain from the sky, diverting the crowd's attention, allowing Nier and his team to escape undercover as an anti-riot squad. Neither Light nor Misa can catch Nier. Soon after, Nier calls Light, reiterating his belief that Kira is among them and advising caution around Light. Light suggests that they can assist Nier if they wish and contemplates a solution to the predicament he finds himself in. Aizawa calls Nier, sharing the details of L's detainment of Light under suspicion of being Kira, and their subsequent release due to an orchestrated performance involving Chief Yagami. Nier is impressed with Kira's strategic maneuvers and deduces that Light used his detainment to present an alibi. Nier inquires if Light willingly submitted to detention, to which if the answer is yes, it would confirm his suspicions. Nier learns about the father-son relationship between Deputy Director Yagami and the Kira suspect from Aizawa's account. He pieces together the information about Chief Yagami's actions and concludes that the person he suspects is Kira and the new L is Yagami Light. Aizawa informs Light that he has been in contact with Nier. Aizawa's plan involves surveilling Light and Misa's residence, believing Misa to be in possession of the Death Note. Light assures Aizawa that he won't communicate with Misa until Aizawa confirms his trustworthiness. Misa answers the door in an unusual outfit, claiming they have received a tip about bombs in Light's house. Mogi accompanies Aizawa, and while they don't find anything, Aizawa decides to have Mogi stay and keep watch over Misa. Light expresses frustration over Demigawa's reckless decision to build a cult around Kira, leading to its downfall. More deaths occur during Kira's broadcast, including Demigawa's live on TV. Light manipulates events using Mikami, who is aware of Kira's beliefs and ideals, acting independently. Light orchestrates Misa's release of the Death Note's ownership, erasing her memories associated with it. He then transfers the ownership to Mikami Teru, who becomes a potential right hand to Kira. More deaths occur during Kira's broadcast, including Demigawa's live on TV. Light manipulates events using Mikami, who is aware of Kira's beliefs and ideals, acting independently. Light orchestrates Misa's release of the Death Note's ownership, erasing her memories associated with it. He then transfers the ownership to Mikami Teru, who becomes a potential right hand to Kira. Mikami Teru possesses a strong sense of justice, shaped by his childhood experiences of witnessing numerous deaths. From a young age, he categorized people into two groups, those who are good and those who are evil. Encouraging words from victims motivated him to save them whenever he could. However, Mikami himself was subjected to bullying throughout his youth. His mother's tragic death in a road accident paradoxically aligned with his ideology, as she held differing views. Becoming a prosecutor, Mikami aimed to support the fight between good and evil. Upon learning of Kira's existence, he watched Demigawa's TV show in a bid to attract the attention of what he perceived as a divine force. In a twist of fate, Mikami was granted a connection with Kira, sharing his power and subscribing to Kira's ideology. Communication between Mikami and Light is restricted, but they recognize the need for another spokesperson after Demigawa's demise. Both independently conclude that Takada Kiyomi would serve as the new face of their movement. Aizawa anticipated that Light might attempt to protect Kiyomi, but instead, Light takes a proactive approach by investigating her to unveil Kira's identity. Light plans to manipulate Kiyomi into trusting him by appearing as a supporter of Kira's cause. He contacts Kiyomi, informing her of his suspicions about Kira worshippers. Light outlines his intention to gain Kiyomi's trust and reveals that he will eventually unveil himself as Kira. Meanwhile, Mello listens in on Misa's conversations using a transmitter. Later, Light meets Kiyomi in a hotel room, which is discreetly monitored. During their discussion, Mikami contacts Kiyomi and Light manages to establish communication with him. Mikami instructs Light to tune into Sakura TV, where a series of killings are occurring. After removing the potential wiretap, Light discloses his true identity as Kira to Kiyomi and engages in conversation with her. En and Rister are making their move to Japan, and En contacts Light to inform him of his arrival. En proposes a plan to Light. He suggests revealing to Kiyomi that SPK is in Japan to arrest Kira. The aim is to bait Kira into taking action and engaging in a showdown. En is determined to defeat Kira using his own tactics and strategies, and Light accepts the challenge, seeing it as an opportunity to end the conflict and regain his control. The motivation is to eliminate both L's legacy and anyone who is influenced by it, effectively solidifying Light's dominion. En contemplates the situation and outlines two potential strategies to defeat Kira. The first option involves eliminating L Kira and X Kira to take possession of the Death Note, but En is hesitant to resort to this method as he refuses to follow in L's footsteps. Meanwhile, Light is in the company of Kiyomi and the team is monitoring their conversation, communicating through written notes to maintain secrecy. Light instructs Kiyomi to act as Kira and continue killing, but he also plans to manipulate her into creating a fake Death Note. Kiyomi follows Light's orders and contacts Mikami, instructing him to send her a fan letter containing blank Death Note pages. She also encourages Mikami to continue killing as instructed, while simultaneously crafting a counterfeit Death Note. En's investigation intensifies, with one of his officers posing as Kiyomi's bodyguard. En believes that Kiyomi's selection was influenced by her Kira worship, and he starts to connect the dots regarding Mikami's involvement. As part of his investigation, En speaks with Aizawa, seeking wiretap footage from Kiyomi and Light's meeting. However, this turns out to be a distraction, allowing Light to divert En's attention while focusing on his own plans. Kiyomi and Misa meet in person and discuss Light, revealing feelings of jealousy and rivalry. Meanwhile, a man named Makima witnesses a criminal harassing a woman on a train. Using a fake Death Note, he writes the criminal's name, resulting in the criminal's sudden death, which is observed by a watcher named Giovanni. Giovanni, the watcher, continues to track Mikami's movements and reports the train incident to Aizawa, still harboring suspicions about Light, reflects on Light's meeting with Kiyomi. During their next meeting, Kiyomi informs Light about her encounter with Misa. In their discussions about Kira, they use different notes to exchange information, all while Light tries to sway Kiyomi to align with his interests in the eyes of the task force. However, Aizawa remains unsettled and continues to investigate. He plants nail marks on the notepads used for communication, and after Light and Kiyomi leave, he discovers that 2 of the 4 marks have disappeared, indicating that they were passing notes. Aizawa personally meets with Nier to discuss his findings, revealing the nature of Light and Kiyomi's meetings and the note exchanges. Nier instructs Aizawa to keep a close watch on Light as part of their plan to expose and end Kira. As part of the operation, Rister escorts Misa and Mogi away, leading to Misa's absence from a music festival. Mogi, too, starts to believe Aizawa's theory about Light. En contacts L and updates him on the situation, revealing that they have taken Misa and Mogi into custody, and orders Giovanni to tail Mikami and attempt to touch the Death Note. Giovanni manages to access Mikami's gym locker and finds his briefcase. When he touches the fake Death Note inside, he searches for any signs of a Shinigami nearby, but finds none. He reports this development to En, who then consults Mogi about the fake rule associated with the Death Note. Meanwhile, Kiyomi and Light continue to meet and exchange notes. Light instructs Kiyomi to relay information to Mikami regarding their next moves. In the midst of these intricate interactions, Giovanni successfully captures a photograph of the fake Death Note. Following Nier's instructions, Giovanni meticulously observes Mikami's actions over the past 3 days. Each night, Mikami fills one page of the Death Note, and Giovanni confirms that the victims' names align with those killed by Kira. With all preparations in place, Nier contacts Light to initiate their final confrontation. He proposes a meeting at Daikoku Wharf, an abandoned warehouse nicknamed the Yellow Box, and outlines his conditions. The investigators pursuing Kira will be present, Misa will be released from confinement, and Light must bring the Death Note. Both Light and Nier are aware of each other's strategies and intentions. They agree on the terms and timing of the meeting, set for 3 days later at 1 p.m. on the 28th. Light has already given his final orders to Mikami and Kiyomi to eliminate Nier. However, Mello devises a scheme to take Kiyomi away by faking an attack and kidnapping her. When Nier contacts Light again, he informs him that Kiyomi was actually taken by Mello, not himself. In this tense sequence of events, Kiyomi is with Mello, who instructs her to remove her belongings and place them in a box. Kiyomi uses the Death Note papers she has to kill Mello. She then communicates with Light, pretending that other team members are present, and contacts Mikami to send her more names. As Aizawa and Ide move with Light toward the scene, Kiyomi succumbs to her fate, and Light employs the Death Note to end her life. As the escort team and task force members arrive at the location, they find the building engulfed in flames. The news spreads about Kiyomi's death, sparking discussions about the next spokesperson for Kira. En contacts Light to confirm the meeting details again, and Aizawa is aware that they might face danger on the following day. The atmosphere is tense as the final confrontation approaches. Aizawa takes the Death Note with him, knowing that this day will mark the end of their long struggle. The day of the meeting arrives amidst rain, and Misa has been released from confinement. The task force enters the Yellow Box, finding Nier sitting on the floor with a mask on his face. The team questions the need for the mask, but Nier explains that he wants to avoid revealing their faces to Kira, who might have the power to kill by sight. For the next half hour, everyone's face, except Nier's, remains hidden to see if anyone dies or falls under Kira's control. After the specified time, Nier removes his mask, revealing himself to the group. He then reveals his plan to confront ex-Kira, the one who will come with the Death Note. The real ex-Kira, Kiyomi, was responsible for the killings, and Nier is now waiting for the person to try to eliminate anyone aware of the Death Note. As Mikami, following the prediction, peeks into the room and starts writing names in the Death Note, Nier informs everyone that he has replaced the Death Note's pages with common paper, ensuring no one will die. Those whose names don't appear in the Death Note are not Kira. Light smiles, believing that everything is proceeding according to his plan. He had anticipated Nier's actions and knew Mikami would follow the predicted script. Light reflects on his plan involving Mikami using a fake Death Note. He suspects that Nier tampered with the fake Death Note and that he's now writing on the real one. Light is somewhat disappointed in Nier, feeling that L would have noticed the possibility of a fake Death Note and tested it. He concludes that Nier isn't as close to L's caliber. During the confrontation, Light asks Mikami from behind a closed door, and Mikami responds calmly. Nier questions Mikami's composure and addresses him by name, asking him to enter. Mikami obeys, and Light counts down the moments. Light is confident that he has won this battle. Nothing transpires as Nier apprehends Mikami and asks for the Death Note. It becomes evident that the only name missing from the Death Note is Light's. Mikami calls Light, providing further evidence against him. However, Light vehemently denies the accusations, yelling that Nier is trying to frame him. Aizawa reminds Light that Nier has won, as they overheard Light's claim of victory. Light tries to evade capture, but Nier's team restrains him. Light's desperate attempt fails, and he is unable to escape the situation. Nier explains that their plan involved tampering with the fake Death Note, as they anticipated Light's counteractions. But Nier's statement had a dual meaning. He also tampered with the real Death Note, gaining control of it. Since Nier touched the Death Note, he could see Ryuk and introduced himself. Nier inquires whether a clipped piece of the Death Note can kill, and Ryuk confirms this. Nier realized that Light had likely used the Death Note countless times for deception and murder. Nier attributes their success to Mello, who indirectly aided them by creating the scenario that exposed the potential of a fake Death Note. Mello understood that alone they couldn't surpass L, but together they could challenge Kira. Nier and his team now possess solid evidence against Light. Light erupts into maniacal laughter and admits to being Kira. He challenges them, asking whether they will kill him. He asserts that since Kira's emergence 6 years ago, global wars ceased and crime rates decreased significantly. However, he acknowledges the world's rotten nature and believes it's his duty to change it. Nier calls him a murderer with a god complex, comparing the Death Note to a gruesome weapon. Light responds that he alone can bring about change. Nier questions the authenticity of the Death Note Light claims to possess. He also questions the Death Note Aizawa has. Light threatens to test the Death Note in Aizawa's possession. He tries to write using the Death Note concealed in his watch, but Matsuda shoots his hand. Matsuda's fury over his father's death drives him to act. In the chaos that ensues, Light attempts to write again but is shot multiple times by Matsuda. Mogi and Aizawa subdue Matsuda, and Light ponders his predicament. Mikami kills himself, and Light escapes through the door. The task force follows him, and Light's escape is brief. Injured and reflecting on his past, Light is overcome by visions of his life. He recalls Ryuk's initial warning that he would lose and that Ryuk would write Light's name in the Death Note when he died. Light meets his end on a flight of stairs, symbolizing his uncertain fate after death. Ryuk fulfills his earlier promise and writes Light's name in the Death Note, causing his demise. Light's story concludes with his death, and Misa also commits by falling off a building. That concludes the anime of Death Note. Hope you enjoyed and let me know your thoughts down below. I'm out.
It was good while it lasted. It's been interesting.